The US ranks 24th in reading, 24th in science, 38th in math, 13th in problem solving. Of all the things that we could lead the world in, we lead the world in the percentage of our GDP that we spend on civil litigation. There are 28 countries in this world that don't make $956 per person in GDP. The first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. It is based on research that I've conducted using credible sources such as the Census Bureau, World Bank, the American Bar Association, and the CIA. Okay, mostly credible sources. Well, the 60s were crazy times. JFK was elected and then assassinated. His brother Robert was assassinated, and so did Dr. Martin Luther King. We went through the ecology revolution, the feminist revolution, black power revolution, human rights revolution, sex revolution, and drug revolution. On July of 1969, we put a man on the moon, and in August, we had Woodstock. We didn't trust the government, and we were fighting a war that we didn't want. I couldn't care less about your students' evaluation. All I care about is that when you graduate, you are ready to work for an asshole like me. And that's important. So really, everybody here that can take an intern, please see the mayor or anybody he designated for this. It's critical for our students, for your students, all of them. Her friend asked, oh, really? So your daddy is a doctor? And Shira, my daughter, thinks about it for a second and she goes, yeah, but not the useful kind. So, why are people so much more creative when they work in startups than when they go and work in mature companies? Then there was a pause. And on the other side, he said, I think we have a topic. I spent the next 2 years trying to understand why are people so much more creative when they work in startups than when they work in corporate America. I found the answer. And one of the best definitions I ever read for radical innovation is this one. Those who live by the sword, help me out, are shot by those who don't. That's radical innovation. Here's what happens to companies. This is what I found through my research. Very simple. You start with a culture that has innovation and autonomy, and you end up, when you are large, you end up losing that culture. Now, one other thing that happens is if you go beyond a certain level of losing that culture, there is no turning back. Now you're starting to lose market share and revenue and profits, and you can't manage your way out of it. So this is something that you don't need to only worry about when you're a large company, but also when you're a small business and you're growing. Why do you lose your culture? The first thing is you lose your autonomy. I can't give you autonomy anymore. You know, we used to be just the 4 of us working, or just the 6 of us here working in our company. But now we have all those people, and I don't remember all of their names too. So the only way we can manage this is if we start writing policies and everybody follows policies. So we have more bureaucracy. If you come to work at 9 a.m. Every morning, at 6 a.m. and you leave at 10 p.m. and you come in on weekends because you know that there's work to be done and we need to finish it, and I show up at 9 and after 5 p.m. I don't want to talk to anybody here in the company, and let alone weekends. That's not fair. That's not an equal symmetrical relationship. I'm going to ask, please do not take pictures of this one. This took a long time to develop a formula, and this formula is a formula. I'm actually serious. This formula is the formula to build trust. I have something that I call the 5I process. The first one is introspection. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. Let's measure. Let's find that where we have a problem. Let's do the 20-80 rule. Let's find where the problems are. What 20% of the problems will have 80% of the effect. The second part is intervention. Now let's work on it. And intervention, you can see, we can set goals. We can start working on changing the culture. I need to work with your HR department so that they will know what other things to check for when they hire employees. How do you put a team together? Training, coaching, all those things work in building the right culture. Then comes the right side, which is ideation, the generation of ideas, and implementation, how you implement them. Those are the 5 I's.
I truly believe that every company in the world, doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter how old, has the potential of being the most innovative company in the world. Can you recognize the person on the left? His name, what was it? Hemingway. Very good. Incorrect, though. His name is Samuel Piedmont Langley. But in this case, let's write policy 1, and policy 1 says that the company must be innovative more than 80% of the time, the company shall excel in execution, and the company will gain the highest market share. Can we write this policy? The answer is yes, we can write this policy. But it's not going to be worth the paper it's written on.
So a lot of people use this example. We're going to give our employees time, or we're going to build an innovation lab. Here's what they don't know. Article after article after article, and even my article that said, this is not working anymore. Google does not do it anymore. And one thing I noticed, some of you looked at the acronym of Corporate Innovation Academy, and I know that it raises a few questions, so I want to tell you that actually there is another organization with the same acronym. But our logo look completely different. We'll put that aside and let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, first of all, what is innovation? Because when we talk about innovation, we need to have the same language. We need to be able to refer to the same things. We're going to talk about the problems with innovation and not the problems with startups. Startups seem to be very innovative. We're going to talk about the problems that we're facing in larger companies. Then we're going to do an interesting exercise, after which we're going to talk about the solutions to those problems and what can you do tomorrow. And as it turned out, 0.3% of those boxes came out empty. Process was not perfect. Only 0.3%. Is that good or bad? 0.3%. That's pretty good, right? No. Wait, decide. Is it good or bad? So are we okay if 0.3% of flights into DFW would crash on final? Only 0.3%. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Okay, first of all, I want you to remember that you are competing. How many of you actually looked around to see if they stand any chance to win? Not all of you. I've done this in several places where they didn't even look at the other ones. That was not one of the rules, and one of the biggest problems that we have with innovation today is that we assume restrictions that don't exist. So my answer is yes. Absolutely. With that, I think we're going to wrap up. We reached our time. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your business cards. Every business card that I get in that box that my daughter thought looks pretty, I will send a code to take that survey to assess your own company. Give them a hand. They're taking a risk now. They have no idea. You are?
My name is Leela.
Leela. Leela and?
Robbie.
Robbie. Leela and Robbie, hold those cups. Hold them like they're full. Okay. Now I want you to turn away from me and walk step, 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those were big steps. Okay, turn back to me. Those cups are empty, so don't worry. I think they're empty. Oh, I'm in the middle of this. What this represents, Leela, you are going to be my right brain, right?
Okay, sure.
And Robbie, you're going to be my left brain. That's not a bad thing. By the way, everybody knows that the creative people are right-brained, right? Yes, no, it's not. They're not. Research showed that there is absolutely no such thing as right-brain, left-brain people. Right brain analyzes visual, left brain analyzes text. By the way, here's a tip. If you ever create slides, always put the images on the left, the text on the right. And then there are thunderstorms, which we're going to have tonight. Thunderstorms and turbulence and all kinds of wind shear and stuff that you don't want to find yourself inside, because if you do, then you're dead. So flying is not a relaxing activity. One day I showed up at work, 8 a.m., we had a meeting, and all of a sudden the CEO asked me, "Did you go flying yesterday?" I said, "Yeah." "How do you know?" He said, "What I realized is," and I used to fly once a week, and it was on different days, so he couldn't know. He said, "What I just realized is that every time you come to work after you flew the day before, you're more focused, you're more on point, you're more creative." So as I promised you, 4 steps. 1, collect old ideas outside of your area of expertise, outside of your comfort zone. Step number 2, do nothing. Let those ideas incubate in your head. Step 3, high intensity activity. And step 4, take a shower. A good definition of autonomy I heard from a Professor Teresa Amabile at Harvard. She said, "Creativity thrives when managers let people decide how to climb a mountain. They needn't, however, let employees choose which mountain to climb." I'm going to ask you a different question now. How many of you, given 2 minutes, found something crazier than you did in 30 seconds? There's actually another element to it, and that is touch. I told you I'll come back to Paul Zak. Paul Zak believes that oxytocin is the molecule of trust. When we shake hands, or when we hug, now you know I'm a hugger, when we hug, we actually release oxytocin. And oxytocin in our brain makes us trust others more and makes us feel more trustworthy ourselves. Pizza was not enough. My name is Yoram Solomon. I'm going to introduce myself through a few pictures. Good morning to people in, well, you see me better when I look at you there, people in New Jersey, California, and Georgia, and I think that, no, in Washington. We have people from Washington. So thank you for having me. Today before session number 3, I got an email. It was a weird email. It said, "Dear friend," it had the logo of the White House on the top, and it said, "You are hereby invited to join a meeting of the Business Council of the White House. What must happen is those 2 oranges must be thrown to the prefrontal cortex above my head and meet." So I'm going to count to 3. On 3, I want you to throw it over my head, and I need them to meet. Okay?
Are you serious?
I am serious, yes. At the count of 3, have them hit each other over my head. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for playing. You know how it is that you just have to solve it now, and it doesn't matter if you're going to spend all night. You're not going to feel that you're going to spend all night, but you just have to resolve it. Don't. Stop. Go see a movie with your girlfriend, your boyfriend. If you're married, maybe not so good idea to do it with your girlfriend or boyfriend. But I skipped 3, right? Thank you. People in New Jersey, I skipped 3. It was on purpose. People in San Francisco, we always skip 3, and I'll talk about San Francisco. But in a positive way. So I want to take you back to 1978 in Israel, and I'm about to go to the pre-qualifier for the 1980 Olympics. And I get lane number 4. And if you know what lane number 4 means, it means that at 1978, I have the best time in Israel in 100-meter breaststroke. 1, 2, 3. Not even close. You went for it, Joe, didn't you? He was going for a home run here. Okay, I'm going to need the oranges back. Give them a round first. And I'm going to give you a copy of my latest book. Thank you for playing. But flying is not a relaxing activity, so it puzzled me. See, this is what a cockpit looks like. There are 42 gauges in the plane that I flew. There are 42 gauges and one engine. How many gauges do you need? 42 gauges. Any one of them showing a bad value, you're dead. You share the airspace with these big airplanes, and you want to know exactly where they are, and they need to know where you are, and you do not want to be on their path, because if you're on their path, you're dead. And then there's weather, especially here in Texas. There are all kinds of thunderstorms and turbulence and everything. You don't want to fly into that, because if you fly into that, you're dead. Flying is not a relaxing activity.